Thank you everyone for the positive feedback we got on the yesterday's session, and also thank you for joining with us for the another session of Aranya 2.0. And this session is part of a series of discussion we are organizing under Aranya 2.0. So we hope you find it valuable. The current today's session is about blockchain development skills, and I like Aditya and Raven to provide a warm welcome to our guest and take over as a host. Guys, you can.
Yeah, thank you, Arnold. I hope my video and my voice is clear.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so let us begin. Uh, Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this guest speaker session on blockchain development hosted by the members of Pichavaram House at IIT Madras. It is truly an honor to have with us today an esteemed guest speaker who has made significant contributions to the world of blockchain. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Shubha Pandey, a distinguished content strategist and the founder of Blockchain Siksha. Ms. Subda's expertise in simplifying intricate blockchain concepts has been pivotal in making this technology more accessible. Today, she will be sharing invaluable insights into blockchain development, covering everything from fundamental principles to advanced strategies. Whether you're a seasoned developer or just beginning your journey, this session promises to enhance your understanding and skills. So let us give a warm welcome to Ms. Shubda and get ready to boost our blockchain development capabilities. Over to you, Shubda ma'am. Please go ahead.
Hi all, thanks for inviting me. Uh, I wish you all can turn on your cameras so that I can see the faces, and so that I will come to know whether you are getting the points or not. Can you turn on your cameras? Okay, I will begin with my introduction. I'm Shubhada Pandey. I'm founder of blockchainsiksha.com. It's my personal blog targeted towards blockchain niche. Around my 90 blogs are already published on that. With that, I'm working with Jumbo Blockchain, which is a layer 1 protocol, as a social media manager and handling their social media part and business development part also. So I will tell you about why Jumbo Chain, but if you agree, we will start the session. Should we?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And yeah, feel free to ask me questions. No doubt, we will cover up during the session or at the time of at the end of the session.
Yeah, ma'am. During the session, you can just go ahead with the presentation and
Yeah.
questions we can take at the end of the session after everything has
Yeah.
been covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So, guys, if you have any
Yeah.
doubts, make sure to note them down, post them in the questions tab, and we'll make sure to address all of your questions at the end. So, stay tuned. Thank you so much. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah. I will start with the basic concept of. Can you start the presentation?
Oh, yes, ma'am, sure.
Yeah. So we will start with what is blockchain. Just a screen. I will. Can you make it full screen?
Ma'am, actually, it's already in full screen, PPT.
Okay, I'm not able to. Just a second. Yeah, we'll start with what is blockchain. So, as the name suggests, blockchain is chain of blocks, block and chains. So, it's a distributed ledger, and like in centralized system, we define it as a distributed ledger. Why it's a distributed ledger? Because in traditional way of database, that there are many servers or nodes in case of distributed ledgers. The complete data is not stored at one place. There is no central authority to regulate or to which has control over that data. That's why it's a blockchain. So in that block, it is termed as blockchain is cannot be tampered with. Why it can't be tampered? Because all these blocks are connected to each other with cryptographic hash. Cryptography is used in covering those blocks or connecting those blocks, and each hash function of the previous block and the first hash are connected with each other. So if someone tries to tamper or to make fraud in that database, entire chain, entire nodes, if there are nodes, whatever the nodes connected in that blockchain, get the notification that someone is trying to tamper the data. Like in case of Ethereum, there are 22,000 nodes working together to create a block. So what happens if one, two, or a small group of nodes try to tamper the that data? Each and every block in that node in that blockchain, and the system starts stopping it from fraudulent activities, and anyone can trace it from which nodes the tampering or fraud or something is inappropriate activities are going on. As you can see in this picture, the entire blockchain system looks like this. There are computers, there are business entities, there is main blockchain, and everything is connected with nodes. Nodes are the, what we can say, lifeline of that blockchain. And the consensus mechanism, smart contracts, there are many other factors which comes into the blockchain. Can you slide to next one? So we will start with the 4 key concepts of the blockchain. One is distributed ledger, shared ledger. Means each and you can compare it with your notebook. If you are 15 students and each one is having a notebook, but the specialty of that notebook is, even if person A writes something, it gets copied to all the 15 notebooks. If someone erases it or changes it, it gets notified to each and every notebook in that loop, we will say. The second concept is cryptography. Cryptography is can be defined as a secret coding language. The cryptography is generally it is converted into bits, 16 to 56, and these are alphanumeric hash functions which cannot be tampered or which cannot be recreated for everyone. Just like to take the example, if I had to write my name, Shubhada, Shubhada, if I make S capital, then the hash function will create will be different if I use it in a small letters. If I write complete my name in small letters, the hash function will be different. It is in capital letter, the hash function will be later. These are n number of combinations of the hash can be created, and all these hash are stored in the block data blocks, and these data blocks are connected with each other. header, footer, and these are connected with each other. You can imagine it like a train bogies. We train bogies are connected with to each other with some connecting point. These hash functions and these header and footer are like that. And till all these hash functions and the block time is block creation time is not completed, that block is not completed. Once block is completed, then the data in that block is 100% secured in that block. No one can tamper it. To take the example, we can say bank account. Right now we are in a centralized bank system. There is one server, and you might have experienced this. There is, if we go to bank and say something entry is wrong in my bank accounts, what that person will do, he will go into the accounts, he will erase that entry, and your accounts will be fine, starts working fine. But in case of blockchain, this will not happen. Why this will not happen? Because the data once stored in the blockchain cannot be erased, immute. Okay. Then in case of blockchain, what will happen? That bank person has to make another entry saying there was error in block number this and this. That's why I'm reversing this entry. So in the blockchain, there will be always two entries. First one will be the wrong entry, and second one will be the correct one entry with reason. So even after 10 years, 15 years, 50 years, someone goes and find out what has happened, there will be always be two entries. That, yes, but in today's banking system, this will not happen. No one can go back and take that, find out what had happened. There will be no stresses of fraud. And that's why when we listen to in the news that some bank has created a fraud, gave loan to someone who was not worthy. Why this happened? Because there was no tracing of the credit limits or that person's financial health. There was no foolproof record of those transactions. That's why people are taking loan from one bank and still they are taking keeping same mortgage and taking loan from another bank. This will not happen once blockchain will start being adopted by the banks. Someone was asking question. Hello?
Yeah, ma'am, please go ahead. We'll take the questions at the last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then comes the consensus. What is consensus? Now you will say how the blocks are created. There are multiple number of servers, nodes all over the world of the same blockchain. Then who will authenticate that transaction? For that, we have a consensus mechanism. It's a decision-making process in simple languages. In simple language. So, in consensus, we can take to explain the consensus mechanism. What we can say, suppose you are a classroom of 50, and you want to agree on a certain mathematical problem before going to next question. What will happen? Everyone will go and run in a rush that I will be the first to get the answer. The same things happens in the consensus mechanism of the blockchain. There are multiple types of consensus mechanism adopted by many blockchains all over the world. But the first consensus mechanism was proof of work. Proof of work, uh, just like I said earlier, everyone rush to validate the transaction. And how they complete the transaction, it depends on their mathematical computation power. Every node has its own mathematical computation power, and based on that, mm, that blockchain, when a transaction comes to the blockchain for recording, those nodes start competing with each other and they validate the transaction. Those nodes validate the transaction who has first come to the blockchain, or who has first solved that mathematical puzzle. It's a proof of work. It's a first consensus mechanism used all over the world when blockchain was introduced. But there were many limitations to it, because if certain node has bigger capacity to do the computation power, it has started slowing down the process of block creation. The in proof of work, block creation time is around 10 to 12 minutes, and the fraud started going on in those block creation time. Then come the proof of stake. In proof of stake, what the concept is, in proof of stake, that blockchain ecosystem has what we can say, stakeholders. Nodes are the stakeholders in that blockchain system, and validators are selected. Validating nodes are selected based on those stakeholders. And there are multiple ways of doing it by multiple blockchain systems. Now, in case of Jumbo blockchain, where I'm working with, we have a patent for our uh, Jumbo consensus mechanism. We have recently we got international patent for that. In that, we do this consensus based on 5 parameters. Number 1 is stake. Second is uptime. Uptime means for how much time the node is in working condition. Third is capacity. Capacity of that node to do the computation power. Fourth is sustainability. Sustainability in terms of ESG parameters, like how many are doing for governance, for environment, how much is your sustainability score. And the fifth is node utilization. How many nodes are used in that. We are using 15 nodes, and those nodes are selected based on computation power and random things. There are many other factors. And the fourth and the most important factor we can say is smart contracts. Smart contracts are written codes and predetermined set of instructions, and these are executed once certain conditions are fulfilled. So if the coding in that smart contract is perfect, recording of the blockchain will be perfect. There will be no issues. These smart contracts are digitally written codes, and you can relate it to the robots. Like if you have programmed a robot to open the door when someone is outside. So what you have done, you have created a condition. If someone is outside, open the door. It does the work once certain condition is fulfilled. So in case of smart contracts, we can apply it for any activity. It may be for supply chain, it may be in manufacturing, it may be in banking, or anything. In case of banking, if smart contracts says after tenure, end of the tenure of FD, your interest will be added to your savings account. That will be a smart contract. No manual, we can say, no manual things will be involved once the smart contract is perfect. Now, what happened with the smart contracts? Fraudulent people started using smart contract as a weapon to do the fraud, because smart contracts are machine readable. They are not human readable. They are not. They were not applicable in the court of law. So the new concept started: Ricardian contracts. Ricardian contracts are generated using computer codes, no doubt, but along with human readable terms and conditions. So if I am a party to the smart contract, I can read what are the terms and conditions I have agreed upon while signing or while doing the transactions on blockchain. This is a new concept, not yet adopted by many organizations in the world, but it is getting traction. That Ricardian contracts, some days, maybe in the future, Ricardian contracts will be applicable in the court of law, and you can sue someone in the court of law that it's a Ricardian contracts based on smart contract, and some fraudulent activities has gone. It will be legally binding on the parties to the contract. Can you change the slide? So we have actually covered this ledger part. Any questions on ledger? Hello? Let's slide to next one. So we have already covered this one. Next slide, please. Before it, one more. Backward one more. Yeah. So how this distributed ledger work? So in the first stage, transactions starts with digital signatures. Now these digital signatures, you all know what are digital signatures, and digital signatures are encrypted so that it cannot be copied or tampered by someone else. Then if I'm doing the transaction, say I'm using it for supply chain, I have authenticated the transaction using my digital signature, then it will be broadcasted to the nodes. Then nodes start its validation process using the consensus mechanism of that blockchain. Then nodes aggregate validity on blocks. Then the validated transactions get stored in the blocks. And once the capacity of that block finishes, or the time that block time gets over, generally in the market, the block time varies between 10 to 12 minutes is the maximum. Now our Jumbo blockchain, the block time is in milliseconds. Today we have achieved one milestone in our blockchain. We have achieved 15 milliseconds of block time. It means that block is created in the gap of that block time. Maximum what we can, the most important advantage of that reduced blockchain block time is, say, take an example, if a person is doing one transaction or taking one loan at the start of the block, and the block time is, like in case of Ethereum, it's 12 minutes. If he takes loan and he repays it back in that gap of 12 minutes, what will happen? He can do a hedging in those 12 minutes. Hedging of the interest, he can earn something, he can use that. Anything, any fraudulent activity can be done in those gap of 12 minutes. But if the block time is in milliseconds, with the blink of the eye, the block will be created. So there will be no scope for any fraudulent activity within that milliseconds time. And that's the one of the biggest advantage or feature of Jumbo blockchain. Then the block is created and it's the true state prior to the block. I hope everyone is getting everything, because I'm not getting any response from your side.
Yes, ma'am, we are getting.
Yeah. Please move to the next slide. So smart contracts, we have seen smart contracts are embedded in the blockchain and executed with the transaction, are verifiable and signed. The blockchain insider team of that any layer 1 blockchain or layer 2 blockchain can validate those codes, but with consensus mechanism again. And it is various types of programming languages are used. There are many, few people are using Python, Solidity, and everything. We are using Python, Golang for our development process. And actually, smart contracts are backbone of that blockchain system, because if the smart contracts are not properly designed, properly coded, then anyone can tamper, any fraudulent activities can be done in that blockchain. Next slide, please. Privacy. Why privacy? Because if I'm a person, like in centralized system, we are using centralized systems nowadays, we have observed that whatever transactions we are doing or whatever social media we are browsing on Google, we get similar kind of advertisements on our page. Why this happens? Because someone is using my personal data, my habits, my likings, and pushing those advertisements to me. Why this is happening? Because my private data, which might be stored on social media platforms, are shared or controlled by some central authority. And in case of blockchains, we don't have that problem, because if I am a person and I don't want my personal data to be shown by anyone, I can create pseudonym on blockchain. Like Ethereum has Ethereum naming system. Many companies are using DIDs. So if I share my DID to someone, then and then only they can see my data. Even now in many cases, Ethereum is using that naming system. Means I can share my name as shubhara.eth. That's it. That name has a coding and it has in the background my complete data. But till the time I don't validate someone to see my data or I give my permission to see my data, no one can see my data. In crypto transactions also, we can use it. Then there are private and public keys. If someone has done transaction on with cryptos, they must be knowing there is one a valid address and there is one private key. That we can define public key and private key as two different things. Public key is like your mail ID. You can give it to anyone. And private key is like your password. It is only with you and you have the access to it. In my Binance account, I can share my public key to anyone for doing the crypto transactions. But for seeing my transaction and for operating it, I will use my private key. For Binance, they have many multiple security layers they have created. Just like they have fingerprint authentication, mail ID authentication, mobile number authentication. There are multiple layers of authentication. So we will now discuss why industries should use these blockchains. What's the use for them? Right now there are many database systems. Then why blockchain? Actually, it reduces the cost and the complexity of the data. If I'm using it for my manufacturing processes, I can easily eliminate the intermediaries. I can streamline the process in the form of smart contracts, databases, codes, and I will minimize the cost of intermediaries. Like there are many banks for transaction. One person comes with the quotation, then it goes to bank, then bank clears it. I can streamline that process in with the blockchain. This could be the one advantage. Trusted record keeping. Why trusted? As I said earlier, we can go back to many years and see the records what the transactions are were happened in the past and find out if there is any discrepancy in the records, because once the block is created, no one can tamper it, no one can misuse that data or change that data for any reason. So what happens, it improves the discoverability. Why? Because we can go back and always see this. Why this matters? If I'm a customer, if I'm a person and I'm going to the pharmacy or and purchasing one medicine, I don't know whether that medicine is authenticated, original, or the counterfeited. And the counterfeited goods market is huge. We cannot. It is 3 times the Indian economy. Or if we calculate all over the world, it's 3 times the Indian economy's GDP. So if it is on blockchain, what will happen? I will scan it with something, maybe mobile, and I will get to know that this medicine is original one. Whatever I'm paying for is the original product I'm paying for. So, and as I said, it's a trusted process. It will create trust between the end user and the businesses, which actually is a bad thing for businesses, that their products are being pirated and pirated copies are being sold in the market instead of their original ones. It's a uh, it's a disadvantage to the government because original products gives taxes. It's a revenue stream for the government. but pirated are not even giving their they are not registered anywhere. They are not giving their taxes to the government. It's a loss to the government. So, but still, blockchain adoption is quite low in the market. Why? Negatives are high performance millisecond transactions. Like if the blockchain system or virtual machine on which the blockchain is used or implemented, like in most of the cases, people are using EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine, but it has its own it has its own drawbacks. So transaction in milliseconds cannot be recorded on the blockchain. Why? Because the transaction speed, that mathematical calculation, node performance, node speed, there are a number of factors which are lowering down the transaction speed. But now, as a Jumbo Chain team member, I can say we have overcome this issue, and we are working on quantum computing right now. And maybe by end of the 2024, we will be able to launch our virtual machine with quantum computing. We are doing that, and our CTO, Mr. Dhanraj Dadich, is working in that direction. He is decoding Rigveda and quantum computing, and we are trying to implement that. Architecture is ready with us, and we are going to implement that. Second is small organizations. In earlier cases, what happened? The implementation time, entire data of the business and its implementation on the blockchain, it was a lengthy process, maybe 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. Till that time, it's a dead investment for the company. And the transaction cost was quite high. In case of Ethereum, ETH, it's around 1 USDT, around 80 rupees. We can 75 to 80 rupees. So for a smaller business or a big business also, they are not ready to pay that much amount, that much transaction cost for every transaction. So what happened? The adoption was less. In case of Jumbo Chain, our chain is so super fast. Our transaction cost is limited to 6 to 8 paisa per transaction, not rupee, paisa. So if a product is sold for 5 rupees MRP, company can afford 6 paisa for original products. So in many, and another reason for not adoption of blockchain in companies is if company is already using some ERP system like Oracle or JD Edwards or something else, that integration of blockchain and previous database was quite a glitch, or their API was not that much easy to use that they can easily move from one database system to another one. We are also working in that direction in this year. We will solve this issue. Our APIs are ready. Our tech team is working on that. Can you please slide to next one? So now use cases. There are many in each and every field. We can use that blockchain. Sorry. We will take the example of supply chain management. Supply chain management generally starts from production to the end user. There are multiple intermediaries in between the supply chain. Let's take the example of vaccines. In case at the time of COVID, we have seen that vaccines were stored in at certain temperature. Those syringes were stored in at certain environment. But we as a user were not having any access to it, whether from production to the till the vaccine reaches us. There was no system to find out whether it is stored properly, whether that syringe was sterile, whether what was happening to that those used syringes, what was happening to those bio waste. We were having no clue what was happening. But in case of supply chain, if there was a blockchain adoption in that process, what will happen? The end user and the company also, pharma company also, can trace the entire system, that from their warehouses the products are started, then to the first middleman, to the second middleman, then the third middleman, and everything was stored with uh, appropriated data, we can say, temperature data, uh, duration of that, check-in, check-out time, everything. And in that system, we can add, if I'm a user, I can easily see whether the vaccine injected on me is appropriate or not. And if it is not appropriate, blockchain system, we can implement smart contract to give a reminder or to give intimation to the production house, that pharma company, that's this batch of medicine is not useful right now, is tampered or can be discarded, something, whatever the use case is. And it can be implemented in any kind of industry you can think of. Like we are coming up with counterfeiting solution for that. In case of counterfeiting, what we are doing, we are the price label on products will be blockchain based cryptography, and that price tag can be readable by a simple mobile QR code scanner. So at every point of that journey of that product, the company, the end users, the warehouses, the shop owners can track it. Government authorities can track it. Like if, say, 100 bags of cement are out from the factory, and the sales are sales as per the record, sales are for 120 bags, means 20 bags are counterfeited. Then if the QR code says it's counterfeited, that counterfeited items geolocation can be intimated to police, can be intimated to that manufacturing unit, can be intimated to wholesaler or retailer in that area, so that it will reduce the counterfeited items. Like in case of COVID, we saw in COVID stage, second wave, why people were dying. It was not the case we were having insufficient medical facilities, particularly in Delhi. There was hoarding of oxygen cylinders, but no one was able to track those cylinders, who was hoarding it, who are selling duplicate or counterfeited remdesivir, and people were dying. If we were implemented that blockchain system in that scenario, it will be helpful for the local administration also to see where are those oxygen cylinders actually located, because we will be having that QR code encrypted with blockchain technology. Yes, we can reduce the black marketing also. So next is banking. Banking, for as I said, for regular banking we can use it, but important use case is cross-border remittances. When importers and exporters do the transactions in foreign currencies, what happens? The transaction time, what is around 3 to 5 days, 6 days. If there are holidays, it gets extended till 8, 9 days also. If I have to make the payment in US dollar and I don't know what will be the exchange rate after 6 days or 5 days, I have to hold that extra money or extra funds with me in for giving it to the foreign party. But blockchain is a system of seconds. Within few seconds or within few minutes, you can do those transactions. So what happens? The fund requirement of that importer or exporters reduces for paying or receiving amount in doing transactions in foreign currency. There is always a additional fee they have to give to the bank or some middleman. That minimizes or nullifies, what we can say, it gets nullified in that process. And duration, overall transaction duration has increased. If I am doing some exports of perishable goods, so I want that money quickly because it's a seasonal product. I want my money in hand for the next harvest, and blockchain is reducing that time gap, time lag in those transactions. So in banking, one we saw for personal banking, second is cross-border, third and the most important, or we might be using it in a year or two, not more than a year, CBDCs. You must have heard about CBDCs, central bank digital currency. So what happens, even if we say blockchain, there is no central authority, no one can do it. It is valid in case of cryptos, but when we come to our legal tender, rupee or US dollar or yen, what happens? There is one central authority, central bank of that company, or sorry, not company, that country, that has a regulatory authority for that currency. It determines the net worth of that country. So the CBDCs are nothing but digital currency backed by blockchain technology. Again, it will function just like our cash or just like our UPI or something else, but it will be backed by government. It has a regulatory government, or RBI has a regulatory authority. Already pilot project on CBDCs are going on. In 12 banks are doing it. These banks are ICICI, HDFC, State Bank, and other 12 banks are running pilot projects for mass adoption of CBDCs. So we can expect within a year, you and me will start using CBDCs in our daily life, just like we are using UPI. UPI is again a digital entry. I will not say currency. It's a digital entry in the bank account. So third use case, what we will discuss is carbon credit. Carbon credits are when a company or when a software company or manufacturing unit is there, there is always a emission of some greenhouse gases, maybe a CO2. If we are using computers all over the manufacturing units and everything, we emit energy, emit heat in the atmosphere in the form of gases, remedial gases, we are emitting it. So, to stop or to discourage or as an incentive for that carbon emission, to discourage the carbon emissions, many government authorities, international authorities work in that direction, and they give carbon credits, carbon tokens, we can say in layman's language, to those companies. If your carbon emission is less, is within the prescribed predetermined limits, then you will get that tokens. So in that case, what happens if earlier companies were reluctant to do take measures on curbing the hazardous gases and in the environment. Now they have incentive to take that advantage, and these green tokens are tradable in the market, so they can earn from that. And like we are doing one pilot project with one company with a jumbo chain. What they have done, they have installed IoT devices in that pilot project all over that area, so that those IoT devices measures how much heat is produced using traditional chulas, cookwares, where sticks and wood is burned, how much is the emission of CO2 in that manufacturing unit, and that for accounting purpose, those IoT devices integrated with the blockchain help us to understand to the government authorities, to the environmentalist, and to the that company also, that how much carbon is they are using, or how much carbon are they are emitting, what could be the measures to curb those carbon levels. So we can make that system, measurement system, more accountable and transparent for every stakeholder in that ecosystem. Can you slide to next one? So there are many others you can read on the screen. Public records, like someone has asked whether we are using blockchain systems in India. Yes, we are using it. For real estate records, Pune Mahanagar Palika Municipal Corporation is using blockchain for real estate land records. There is one port in Gujarat. They are using blockchain for recording their transactions, and in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, they are using blockchain for their transport data. So there are many other projects are going on. Niti Aayog and what that name is. They are trying to adopt it for healthcare services. The railways are exploring way how we can use it for cargo transactions and ticketing. So people are working in that direction, and slowly adoption is increasing. And there are many companies in India, private companies also, they are coming to blockchain. So the adoption is good, and by 2030, it is expected that 60% of the industries will be on the blockchain because of its features. Can you slide? Next one. So I would like to tell you more about Jumbo Chain because we are a patented one, and we are proud to be a patented one, registered in India, developed by Indians, were taxpayer in Indian, and will be working all over the globe. So why we are different than others? We are layer 1 protocol. Let's take yes, Swadeshi Tech. Yes, we are Swadeshi Tech, and we are proud to be a Swadeshi Tech. Our founder is getting offers from Dubai and China for registering this blockchain in their country, but we are denying that we are Indians and we are proud to be Indians. So we are here only. So we are a layer 1 protocol. We have developed the code from scratch, from zero level. We have not taken help of anyone else. We have not outsourced anything. We are in-house only. We have 2 patents right now. One for our sharding protocol. Yeah, I have not told you this sharding part. I missed that. I will tell you. In sharding, what happens? Data blocks or data structures or whatever you can imagine are distributed into small parts, and that those shards, it is for curbing the data size, or we can, in our layman's language, what we do with zip files, we minimize that time, that data to a smaller part. But in a dynamic sharding, what other people are doing, in every shard that data is being stored. If the data size is 1 GB and there are say 22,000 nodes, those 1 GB data into 22,000 nodes, that much storage capacity will be required. But in in case of jumbo sharding protocol, what we are doing, only 15 nodes will have 100% data. Those 15 nodes will be those who have validated that transaction. So if the data size is 1 GB, we will need 1 GB into 15, that much storage capacity. And then you will ask, what about other nodes? What will happen to that? If someone tampers, what will happen to that? Then in that case, in other nodes, apart from those 15 validating nodes, they will be having header and footer of each and every transaction. So even though the data is 1 GB, the header and the other nodes will store only header and footer of that data. So if someone tries to tamper that block, what will happen? Each and every node in the jumbo chain ecosystem will get alert that someone is trying to tamper the data. And that's the specialty. And the second, next is our feature is jumbo consensus mechanism. I have explained we are using it in based on 5 parameters, and we are aiming for transaction speed of 2 lakhs transactions per second. Now today only we have achieved that target a little bit. Our block time was 17 milliseconds. 17 milliseconds. was the transaction time, and which is the fastest in the world. No one has achieved this TPS till date. So we are proud to be the most scalable blockchain in the world. If someone wants, I can show you. Our testnet is going on. I can share the screen with you and show you how the blocks are created and how that screen appears. Or at the end, we can see that. Can you to next one? Now you all are students. So my suggestion is you can learn these programming languages, do the certifications. There are many organizations you can do that certificates. Hyperledger is doing it, edX, Coursera, everything. This is formal education. For Web3 and blockchain, the good way to get in touch and increase the community is networking. You join, there are many communities on LinkedIn. You can join them, you can interact with them, you can follow industry influencers. I have added few names, industry influencers name at the end of the slide. You can start following them. Those most of those influencers are itself a education, and those influencers are so reachable to everyone in their network. You can ask any question to them, they are always open. On LinkedIn there are many events. You can join those audio events, video events, and most of the events are have question and answer session at the end, but understand from them. We at Jumbochain also do events on regular basis. These are the names of industry influencers. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm always available on LinkedIn. You can get in touch with me anytime. Now it's been around more than 600 days. I'm continuously writing on LinkedIn about the same blockchain niche. So I have good regular in blockchain. You can anytime reach out to me for around 12 to 15 hours. I'm on LinkedIn on any day. So you can reach out to me. You can ask me question. You can tell me to write something on some projects, some topic. I'm always open to you. So these are my links. Follow me. And I think we can now go on for a question answer session.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now,
Thank you
if
so
anyone
much
of
for
you
that.
have any questions, you can ask.
Yeah. We'll take the questions from the question and answers tab. We'll go by popularity. So the first question is from Athi. Athi wants to know where one should begin in order to be a blockchain specialist.
For any field, and as well as for blockchain also, in your student life only, start networking, start reading each and every published word about the blockchain. It will give you a better idea. It will give you an idea whether you are suitable for which profile. You can go for, are you a developer? You are into testing, architecture, research, and many more things you can do in that. But the crux is read and engage with industry experts in whatever way and with each and every possibility of possible opportunity. It's the crux.
Yeah. So Ati, I hope that answers your question. The next one we have from Shiva. He wants to know he wants to ask you, how do you see the relevance of the blockchain development in various industries in the next 5 years? And do you recommend learning development with Web 2.0 before venturing into Web 3.0?
Actually, I will answer the second question first. Web 2 and Web 3. In Web 2, we are in the centralized way, and Web 3, we are working in a decentralized. So if you can understand the Web 2, you might be, it will be a easier journey for you to get into Web 3. But it is not necessary that you should start programming languages and development in Web 2 and then jump to, because programming languages are the same. Python can be used in Web 2 as well as in Web 3, right? But how you are implementing it is the crux. In you can have that GitHub ID. You can engage with smart contract contest. Few organizations like DApps World organizes smart contract contest every month. Now their 13th or 14th contest is going just over. You can participate in that so that you will get a better understanding of your capacities, whether you will be best fit for development, Web 2, metaverse. There are n number of possibilities with uh, blockchain. If you are good at VR, virtual reality, programming, metaverse, and in that, you can uh, proceed your profession in that direction apart from the core coding. It could be anything. I'm not from technical background, but I have crafted my uh, profession in social media for Web3. I'm working in that direction. Even though I am not from technical background, I am working with blockchain because I have chosen that as my niche. I hope you are clear, Shiva.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is from me. I wanted to know, are there many corporations in India who are using this blockchain technology in their company? Because I've heard that Reliance Industry uses it to maintain a record of their shareholders' data.
Yeah, there are n number of companies who are adopting. Right now, I am in partnership and business development part, and I am seeing n number of companies are ready to move to blockchain. They are getting attracted for blockchain, but again, the same problem comes. If they get low cost blockchain for their products, they are ready to come. And till date, there was no option for uh, no alternative for costly and secured blockchain. Now we are came in Feb. We are going for our mainnet, and we are hoping that we will increase the adoption rate to a drastic level. So
Yeah, so it's
there
good
are
to know
many opportunities in blockchain industry.
Yeah, so it's really good to know that this cutting edge technology is being adopted by all the
Yeah,
companies.
yeah.
Yeah,
People
so
are
that's
exploring. Right now, because of those drawbacks, people are hesitating to adopt to it. But okay, it will get over soon.
yeah. So the next question is from Shri Harish. He wants to know if there are any programming languages out there to learn the blockchain.
Yeah, programming languages are mainly people are using Solidity and Python, Golang, and if you are learning it, it's good. And for practical experiences, internship is the must before jumping into the job. If you get internship with any startup or a company, the knowledge, practical knowledge, whatever you will learn in those internship period will be um, will decide your career. path to a large extent. So you can learn those languages while working with them. If you have basic knowledge, you can develop there. You can have multiple options.
Yes, ma'am. Sri Harish, I hope that answers your question. Next up, we have Dinesh Bala. He wants to know what is the first and the foremost thing we should learn to become a blockchain developer, and what are the first steps to be taken if someone is a pure beginner?
For becoming a blockchain developer, programming language is the must. And second thing is internship with a startup or established blockchain. It will be a path maker for you because it's a practical implementation of your languages, your coding, how senior developers think about the issue is also a game changer for becoming any software developer. But finally, it's a logic. So you can use that. You can, if you want to improve, you can read Medium blogs of those established blockchains like Ethereum, Solana, Hyperledger. All are having their documented strategies, codes, everything available on the internet. You can go, you can browse that, you can try to understand what they are doing. Okay, this is the code and this is the outcome. Anything. GitHub you can use, you can create your portfolio on GitHub so that whenever you will go in the market as a fresher, you will have something to show that I have done this projects on GitHub. These are my internships. This is that I have involved in smart contract competition, and now I am go to the market, ready to go. It could be a good strategy.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope that answers your question. The next question is from Chatrapal. He wants to know if there are any challenges or limitations when using Ricardian contracts.
Yeah, Ricardian contracts are not yet very much popular in the real world because people are figuring out how to. Because if me and someone from US are entering into a Ricardian contract, what will happen? The laws of India and the US will be different. So those two legal entities must have similar set of terms and conditions. Then we can use or we can embed those terms and conditions into code and then to the smart contract. So people are working out in that direction, but I don't think there is much adoption for Ricardian contracts till now.
So, Chatrapal, I hope that answers your question. And the last question for today we have is from Siddharth. Siddharth wants to know how the blockchain technology can be implemented to fight fake news.
Fight fake news. Oh, that's interesting. If in fake news industry, what happens? From the sources is the pretty used word for fake news. They don't disclose the source. If the transaction or the news media channel is on blockchain, what will happen? Every time the news being getting published, the news reporter must give its source. We can embed that in the smart contract. Your news will be approved only and only when you will add its source, you will add its authenticity. If there is one statement, we always see that there is one statement goes viral that some person ABC has said something, and people start accusing that person, trolling that person, and that that ABC says, no, I have not said this statement. In that case, we will be having, if the first source, like you take the example of Twitter. If news is first published on Twitter, then Twitter has that source that this user has first published this on Twitter. So we can backtrack that news till the person who has started the spreading that news. Then that person could be answerable to that statement. Why you have sent this? On which basis you have published this news? Okay, this is the recording. Then what was the context? What for fake news? What people do? They don't tell you the background of the story. They just release one statement, and people start trolling. But sometimes the intended meaning of that statement is different, and what people understand is different, and it creates a fake story. So in that case also we can use this system, because we have all the transaction data with us on the blockchain. It is recorded on the blockchain.
Okay, so
That's
before
it.
we wrap up, I want
Yeah.
to express my gratitude to Shubhada ma'am for her valuable contributions and to all the participants for making this session vibrant and insightful. Your engagement has been remarkable, and the richness of ideas and perspectives shared today underscores the strength of our community. And thank you all for being here. Until our next session, keep the enthusiasm alive and have a great evening.
Thanks
Yeah.
everyone for inviting me. I really enjoyed the question answer session.